Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. A couple months back, I made a video on what if Joe Biden stayed in the presidential race and went head to head against Donald J. Trump. And then a couple months back, I had him losing in a landslide. So we're back and let's see how this video goes now. So as you can see, it's still Joe Biden slash Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump slash JD Vance. In this timeline, there will be a second debate, and Trump crushes Biden once again. That was his chance for Biden to prove himself once again, and he was not able to. And then Joe Biden denies a third debate, and Kamala Harris goes head to head against JD Vance in the VP debate, and it was a very big stalemate in that debate. So now let's see what happens now in the general election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Alright, now let's always just gotta start off with our safe Democratic states. There's gonna be California, Vermont, Maryland, the District of Columbia. Oh my gosh, how did I tap on that? Okay, well that's right there, but what else is there gonna be? There's gonna be Hawaii and Massachusetts and Maine's first district. Actually, I'm gonna get Maine's first district. That sounds good. So those are the only safe Democratic states. That gives Joe Biden only 86 electoral votes. This is probably Donald Trump's dream. And then these are all the safe Republican states. These are extremely expected Republican states. Nothing extremely shocking here. Ohio, things that are likely Republican states like Ohio, Iowa, South Carolina, Texas, Florida, Alaska, those are going to go into safe Republican in this category. I feel like Joe Biden drops even more points from what he was at before he dropped out. He probably is losing the popular vote at this point by around 4%, 5%. That is a massive shift to the right and definitely not good news for the Democrats at all. Now let's go to the likely Democratic states. Obviously there's not going to be many. I'm going to put New York. I feel like a lot of those more swing voters obviously there's so much coverage in New York City about how like New York is going to go red. Oh my gosh. It's not going to happen, but I feel like a lot of those people who live in those kind of areas in New York are going to be very upset with the Biden administration after watching the debates, and Donald Trump definitely does do better in those areas, enough to get it to likely, which is obviously a blessing already. There's also going to be Connecticut, Rhode Island. These two states are more safe, likely Democratic states. They were won by around 20 points by Biden in 2020. In this scenario, they probably will shift to the right by like 8 points, to like around 12 points. I feel like Trump definitely does pretty good in this northeastern region in this scenario, and these are probably only one of the few states that Joe Biden is gonna win here. Same case with New York here is Illinois. Illinois probably won by Biden in this scenario by around 9 percentage points. Much better than New York for Donald Trump. Same thing with like New York City. A bunch of Chicagoans watching the debates. Maybe they're struggling. Who knows? And they watched the debate and they're extremely unpleased, and they will either stay at home or vote for Donald Trump. A lot of them will do that. So those are going to be the likely Democratic states. Now let's move on to the likely Republican states. These states are going to be more of the right-wing the more right-wing swing states. That's going to be North Carolina, Georgia, and I'm also going to put in Arizona. These three states, let's say a lot of minorities, they watch the debates. Once again, like same case with Chicago and NYC. They're just so unpleased with the Biden administration. The economy is in shambles, and the Democrats aren't doing anything about it, and they don't want a continuation of another 4 years. Because at least right now, Kamala Harris can actually make a point that she is not going to continue the Biden administration. But in this case, uh, Joe Biden can't, because I mean he is literally the head of the Biden administration. So a lot of these people in Georgia or North Carolina, a lot of black people, are not pleased. And obviously Kamala Harris is not at the top of the ticket anymore, so it's going to be to the right. I'd say North Carolina is won by around 7 points. Georgia also around 7 points. Arizona, I'd say around 6 points. I'd say the border crisis once again unpleases a lot of people here. But at least Kamala Harris could actually say that she's gonna fix some things if she was the head of the administration. So yeah, those are gonna be the likely Republican states. Now let's move on to the lean Democratic states. These are gonna be actually Delaware's gonna be likely. Basically same thing with Rhode Island and Connecticut, what I said before. But in this scenario, New Jersey is going to be lean. Where else is going to be lean? Colorado is going to be lean. Oregon is going to be lean. Washington, I meant to put it in likely. Washington was won by around 18 points by Biden in 2020. Seattle, Tacoma, those are going to shift to the right massively if Biden was still at the top. And obviously, Kamala Harris is from the specific region, so if she wasn't at the top of the ticket, these areas would not vote for Democrats by the kind of stuff that Kamala Harris is at right now. Let's talk about Colorado, Oregon, New Jersey. New Jersey, obviously there's going to be Jersey City, a lot of people there. They don't want to vote for Biden. Honestly, this is just going to be all over the country. I mean, they just don't want a continuation of the Biden administration. And obviously, it's going to happen everywhere in all sorts of these places, but I feel like there's going to be bigger effects in these places. And New Jersey, it was almost, I believe, it was a likely Democratic state in 2020. And if it shifts to the right, it's going to be lean Democrat. Colorado, I believe it was just barely. This might also apply to New Jersey. I don't exactly have it memorized, but I feel like Colorado was a likely Democratic state in 2020, although it may have been safe. I did forget. But once again, if it shifts to the right by a couple points, it's going to end up in lean Democrat. And obviously, there's a massive migrant crisis in Denver, Colorado, which might definitely shift a bunch of more working class voters to the right and vote for Donald Trump. Oregon, very same scenario with Washington, just I feel like it will shift to the right by a little more in those Portland areas. And also, it did vote for Biden a bit less than Washington did in 2020. Now let's talk about the lean Republican states. So these are basically the rest of the swing states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and obviously Pennsylvania. Also, Trump has won the 2024 presidential election with this. Also, I meant to put Maine 2nd District in safe Republican. Don't mind that. These states, I mean, they're swing states. In this blowout scenario for Democrats, obviously, these are going to go to Republicans. And, I mean, Nevada, once again, like I said, Hispanics, they're shifting to the right. Working class voters, in the Rust Belt, Democrats don't have Tim Walz in this scenario, so they won't really have anyone to be appealed to. I mean, sure, Biden has a Scranton, Pennsylvania thing where he was born, but that only does so much, and there's nothing really Biden can do at this point. The election's basically over, and yeah, these four states go lean Republican. And I also want to throw in Nebraska's 2nd District to lean Republican, and the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire, because Joe Biden is no progressive in all cases. I mean, New Hampshire, it's a pretty progressive. If Democrats want to do well in New Hampshire, they gotta get a progressive like Tim Walz, and in this case, they don't have that kind of progressive. And in Nebraska 2nd, The only reason I feel like Democrats could get into likely Democrat is because of Tim Walz. Tim Walz has a lot of that uh, Midwestern farming rural appeal, and without him and Kamala Harris on the ticket and Biden off the ticket, Nebraskans won't vote for the Democrats. Obviously, it's not exactly going to be won by Trump by 4 points, 5 points. Nebraska second, I have Trump winning in this scenario by 1.8 and New Hampshire by 1.3. Alright, there's 4 states left from Maine at large, 2 electoral votes, Minnesota 10 electoral votes, New Mexico 5 electoral votes, and Virginia 13 electoral votes. Minnesota, I'll start it off with tilt Republican. New Mexico, tilt Democrat. Virginia, tilt Democrat. And Maine at large, tilt Republican. Minnesota, like I said, there's no Tim Walz. I mean, Tim Walz's home state is Minnesota, and there's really no Midwestern appeal in this area. At least Republicans have J.D. Vance, right? So that gives the Republicans a boost. But the Democrats, they got nothing here. And yeah, there's really just nothing Democrats can do in Minnesota. At least it's better than New Mexico. I mean, this is a pretty Democratic and likely state. Kamala Harris, I bet if they campaign in New Mexico, they can definitely get it to lean. Not as close, but New Mexico, it's going to be tilt. Virginia, it's a pretty solid Democratic state. I mean, it can get close sometimes, but it has a pretty Democratic voting record, and Virginia is going to go like Democrat this scenario. Maine second. Maine at large. Maine at large is interesting. Like I said before, for New Hampshire, if a Democrat wants to do well here, they gotta go long. They gotta be really progressive. And Kamala Harris is no progressive. Joe Biden is not a progressive. Donald Trump just barely edges out here in Maine. Maine, I have Trump winning it in this scenario by 0.2. Minnesota by 0.7. New Mexico, Biden wins it by 0.9. Virginia won by 0.5. So thank you for watching today's video, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.